Have you ever met someone who treated you with genuine kindness, and yet, for some reason, you felt nothing? No excitement, no spark. Maybe you even convinced yourself they were too boring or too nice. Then, almost without thinking, you found yourself chasing someone else, someone distant, unpredictable, someone who kept you awake at night wondering where you stood. At first, it feels like chemistry, but what if it isn't? What if the strongest attraction you've ever felt wasn't a sign that you'd found the right person, but evidence that your past is quietly choosing for you? Psychologists have noticed a painful pattern. Many people don't fall in love with what is healthy. They fall in love with what feels familiar. And familiarity isn't always beautiful. For some, it sounds like silence after asking for affection. It feels like walking on eggshells. It means believing that love must be earned through patience, sacrifice, or suffering. The most dangerous part is that this pattern doesn't feel wrong. It feels like home. And when love finally arrives in a peaceful, gentle form, it can feel strangely uncomfortable, as if your heart doesn't know what to do with something that asks for nothing except that you stay. In the next part, we'll explore why the heart often mistakes emotional chaos for love, and how childhood quietly writes the script we keep repeating as adults. Most people believe they are searching for love, but in reality, many are searching for something much older than love, something familiar. If your childhood taught you that affection came with criticism, distance, or unpredictability, your nervous system quietly learned a dangerous lesson. Comfort is unfamiliar, but emotional instability feels normal. That's why a kind person often fails to impress you. They reply to your messages. They keep their promises. They don't play games. Instead of feeling grateful, part of you starts looking for flaws. They're too quiet, too available, too ordinary. Then someone else appears. They disappear for days, send mixed signals, make you question your worth. And suddenly your heart races. You call it chemistry. But chemistry isn't always a sign of compatibility. Sometimes it's simply your old wounds recognizing a familiar environment. Your brain isn't asking, "Is this person good for me?" It's asking, "Have I survived this before?" The answer is yes. You've survived uncertainty before. You've survived emotional neglect before. And that's exactly why it feels strangely attractive, even when it slowly destroys you. Here's the cruelest part of this cycle. People rarely sabotage love on purpose. They genuinely believe they're making rational decisions. When a relationship becomes calm and predictable, they begin to feel restless. Small disagreements suddenly seem unbearable. Ordinary mistakes become proof that something is wrong. Without realizing it, they start creating distance, canceling plans, picking unnecessary arguments, flirting with someone else, or convincing themselves they've fallen out of love. The tragedy is that nothing actually happened. The relationship didn't fail because there was no love. It failed because there was no chaos. Many people spend years blaming bad luck. They say they always meet the wrong partner. But after enough heartbreak, one uncomfortable question eventually appears. What if the common problem isn't everyone else? Patterns don't repeat because fate is cruel. They repeat because the mind keeps choosing what feels emotionally familiar over what is emotionally healthy. Until that pattern is recognized, every new relationship eventually turns into the same story with a different face. Different names, different cities, different memories, but always the same ending. And the saddest part is this: the person you're trying to escape may never have been another person at all. It may have been a version of yourself that never learned what safe love feels like. Most people think childhood is something they outgrow. It isn't. Childhood simply changes its disguise. The child who had to earn affection by being quiet often grows into an adult who apologizes for having needs. The child who never knew when love would disappear grows into someone who constantly fears being abandoned. And the child who learned that conflict was a normal part of family life may spend decades confusing emotional pain with passion. This is why relationships often feel strangely familiar. You're not only meeting another person, you're meeting your own history. Without realizing it, many people spend their adult lives trying to solve a childhood problem through romantic relationships. They hope that if this partner finally chooses them, stays with them, or loves them enough, the emptiness they carried for years will disappear. But no partner can rewrite a childhood they never lived through. That's why even the healthiest relationship eventually feels disappointing when it's expected to heal wounds it never created. Love can support healing, but it cannot replace it. Until you face the pain you learned to ignore as a child. You'll keep asking every relationship to do a job it was never designed to do. People often say they want a different life, but very few people are willing to tolerate the discomfort that comes with becoming different. Healing doesn't begin when you find the perfect partner. It begins the moment you stop trusting every emotional impulse as if it were the truth. The next time you meet someone who is calm, patient, and emotionally available, pay attention to your first reaction. If part of you wants to run away because they seem too nice or too predictable, don't immediately assume they're wrong for you. Ask yourself a harder question. What if the uncomfortable feeling isn't a warning, but a withdrawal symptom from a lifetime of emotional chaos? Growth rarely feels exciting. In fact, it often feels strangely boring at first because your nervous system is no longer surviving a crisis every day. Real love doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't force you to earn basic respect. It doesn't make you question your worth every weekend. Sometimes the biggest sign that you've finally met the right person is not the butterflies in your stomach, but the silence in your mind. For someone who has spent years living in emotional storms, that silence can feel unfamiliar. But perhaps, for the first time in your life, unfamiliar is exactly where healing begins. Perhaps the hardest truth you'll ever accept is this: the person hurting you isn't always the biggest problem. Sometimes, the bigger problem is the part of you that keeps walking back. It's easy to blame the manipulative partner, the emotionally unavailable lover, or the person who never chose you. They are responsible for their actions. But healing begins when you ask a different question. Why did I stay long after I knew this was hurting me? That question isn't about guilt. It's about freedom. Because if every relationship ends with the same loneliness, the same disappointment, and the same feeling of never being enough, then the pattern deserves more attention than the people involved. Many of us spend years waiting for someone else to change. We wait for an apology that never comes. We wait for someone to finally see our value. We wait because hope feels easier than grief. But every day spent waiting is another day teaching yourself that your happiness depends on someone else's decision. At some point, love stops being about choosing another person. It becomes about finally choosing yourself. And for many people, that is the most difficult decision they will ever make. Imagine meeting someone who doesn't make you chase them. Someone who answers your messages because they want to. Someone who doesn't disappear for days just to keep your attention. Someone who listens when you speak instead of making you fight to be heard. At first, it may not feel exciting. It may even feel strangely ordinary. But perhaps that's because you've confused emotional intensity with emotional intimacy for far too long. Real love isn't built on anxiety. It isn't measured by how much pain you're willing to tolerate. It doesn't demand that you abandon yourself just to keep another person close. Healthy love feels different. It gives you space to breathe. It allows you to be imperfect without fearing rejection. It doesn't force you to prove your worth every single day. Maybe this is why healing feels so unfamiliar. You've spent years learning how to survive love, but never how to receive it. The goal isn't to find someone who completes you. The goal is to become someone who no longer mistakes suffering for love. Because the healthiest relationship you'll ever have doesn't begin the day someone chooses you. It begins the day you stop choosing what hurts you.